O'Neill Outside Radio is brought to you by these fine sponsors. The Whitetail Institute of North America, the gold standard for food plots. Realtree, camo hunting, fishing, and land management products. Tough Shed, great storage sheds and custom buildings. Works, power and garden tools. Fisher's Choice, the ideal solution to live bait. CVA, quality muzzleloader since 1971. QDMA, Quality Deer Management Association. Arctic Ice, the most durable, versatile, and effective cooler packs available. Furminator, the finest food plot implement on the market. And by O'Neill's new gun reel and marine oils, naturally the best.
The North Georgia mountains, it's time for O'Neill Outside. For anything in the outdoors, this is your source. Listen in and call the show with your comments or questions. And now, here's O'Neill.
Girls, from Black Powder headquarters and the Bojangles studio high in the mountains of South Georgia, North Georgia, you can tell I've been away from the microphone, CVA presents Realtree Radio. I hope you'll join us. Good morning, everyone. It's an unused Saturday morning. We've got 2 hours of outdoors, no politics, no financial advice. Let's just enjoy the weekend. What do you say? We've got a lot of things to do this morning. I hope you'll join us. The telephone numbers are 404-872-0750 or outside the Atlanta calling area 800-972-8255. Let's do that again. 404-872-0750 or 800-972-8255. You can listen to WSB Radio across 38 states and the SB Nation, Sports Broadcast Nation, from the tip of Maine to Florida to Seattle to San Francisco and all across the country. So join us if you will. We'll talk outdoors for the next couple of hours, and we do have a busy time that is, and we hope that you'll stick around and be a part of the program. We have the Medal of Honor tribute, the radio prize package. We have your questions off of our website at O'Neill Outside, and so many more things to do, and it'll be a lot easier for me if you give us a call and we'll talk about things. So at 8 after the hour, we've got 2 hours coming up, and we'll make it the best we can. We're on WSB and the SB Nation, and we hope you'll join us. It's early, isn't it? Wow, man. I went to bed too late last night. I got a great little story to tell you about being in a rainstorm yesterday. You may have to remind me to do that. And it's Carathon Week, the Aflac Children's Carathon, and it's throughout the week on the 25th and 26th on WSB. And you'll be able to listen to O'Neill giving away hats and books and a very, very special once-in-a-lifetime prize. So if you're listening to WSB and you hear about the prize, be sure and call in and make a contribution. This is O'Neill, and more outdoors headed your way after we take our first break of the morning. Back, you're listening to O'Neill Outside, the #1 live outdoor-based radio talk show in the country, and we hope you'll join us this morning. We have a lot of information to take care of, and we hope that you'll join us. A record fish's been caught. Isn't it funny how we can get excited by small things? Here we go. Let me tell you something. This is great. It's St. Simon's Island. It's just off the Georgia coast. The outer islands, they're beautiful. They're outer islands, and they once were the playground of the rich and famous 100 years ago. The York family, the Rockefellers and all, and they owned these islands. Now Georgia coast owns most of them. And so just off the coast there, let's see, this young man's name is a fellow by the name of Will Owens, young man. And they were fishing off the coast there, and he caught a 67-pound dolphin. Now, I'm not talking about a dolphin mammal. I'm talking about a dolphin fish. Dorado, mahi-mahi, whatever, 67 pounds. Oh my goodness! I caught one in Costa Rica, which was a giant. It's on the wall here at the cabin, and it was 48 pounds, and it was huge. It's interesting about a dolphin. He gains a pound a month on average. They are extremely aggressive, and one that weighs 67 pounds, think about that. Now, he's 5.5 years old. That's really old for a saltwater critter that is in such abundance. He gets, what a great idea. You can catch a dolphin, you can hook a dolphin, and the first one you hook, you leave him in the water. You leave him trailing the boat, and the school will follow. They're dumb as a post, but the thing to do is eat them that day. 67 pounds, and I hope he really took a lot of photos. It's 14 after the hour. 404-872-0750, 800-972-8255. And let's tell you what, let's do this. Since it's 14 after the hour, we're talking about salt water. Why don't we go ahead and talk to Don? And Don is calling from
Ocean Isle, North Carolina.
It's always wonderful to hear your voice, sir. How are you?
I'm pretty good for an old man.
Yeah, and the truth, it's a law. I read about it the other day. You get older every day.
I think that's a law of gravity, ain't it?
It's something of that nature. So how's life on the coast, and how's fishing?
Well, it's pretty good. I got grouper in the freezer, so life has got to be good. So that's the only fish I freeze, I guess, is some grouper.
Uh-huh.
Rest
Well,
of them we eat fresh.
I remember the flounder that when we visited a couple of years ago, that was delish.
Yeah, I know. It's a good thing I didn't use your directions to get there to your cabin this morning. I had to go to the Big Chicken and turn left. I'd been in Valdosta.
Oh, I see. Yes, indeed.
We're in South Tree Falls and been moved to South Georgia.
That's a fact. Let me ask you a question. I just did the thing about the that record fish off the coast of Georgia for a Georgia record. What's your biggest dolphin or mahi-mahi or Dorado? Do you remember?
I think 32-pound dolphin is the biggest fish dolphin I ever caught.
That's a big one.
It is a big one for this area.
You bet.
And a 38-pound king is the largest king I ever
How
caught.
about that? Well, let me tell you a story. Let me tell you a story since you called. I have a friend of a friend who was fishing. This was many, many years ago, and they were in the Keys. And there were 3 couples. They were taking a half-day trip, and so they let the ladies sit behind the rods to begin with. And one of the ladies is reading a book. She's really not into the fishing, so they're trolling. That can be a bore sometimes. She gets bit. The captain sets the hook, hands the rod to the lady, and she caught an 88-pound king.
Wow.
No kidding.
Yeah. Well, that 38-pound king around here and down there in the Gulf, they use that for bait down there. But they grow some big kings down in that area down there.
You bet.
Yep. But now the water temperature is in the mid-80s down here now, which is not real high for the summertime. The hottest thing I think I've ever seen out there is 88 and 90 degree, and that's we was out there one day and water temp was 89 and was not a breath stirring, and that was not a very nice place to be. So it was hot out there that day.
You bet.
But the fishing is good. The flounder fishing was really good this year.
Mm-hmm.
Had a lot of flounder caught, and wasn't a real big one that won. It was 8.5 pound, and the biggest one I've seen over here is about 10 pounds. So
yeah.
But that's, as you know, with flounder, that's a lot of good eating right there.
Oh man, yes. I did that. I'd night fished one time for flounder years ago.
Right.
We weren't very successful, but it was kind of an adventure.
Yeah, well, those things. If they've a piece of bait's in front of them, that mouth is like a bass. They'll eat anything, So.
Oh yes.
Yep. Sure do enjoy your show, and glad you and Gail are still hanging in there with us old people over here at the coast.
Yeah. Well, it's still fun, Don. I know sometimes when I get up in the morning at 3 o'clock on a Saturday, I think, whose idea was this?
That's it. And like I said a long time, how do you know when you go to work is what I want to know.
Well, isn't that the truth? Yeah, 24 hours a day. So, it's good to hear from you, my friend. I'm glad you're doing well. I'm glad the fishing's still going on for you, and you stay in touch. It's always interesting and thrilling when I look over on the call screener and it says Don.
One more time.
Yes, sir.
20-some-odd years, I think.
You betcha. Say hello to Ross and the family, and be sure and go out and catch a big one this week.
We're going to do that. Thank you.
You bet. Thanks, pal. There we go. That's always a thrill to hear from Don. He always upbeat, always got a fishing trip to go on, always got something to catch, and always something to talk about. That's the thing about fishing. Of course, on the show here, we handle all types of things of that nature. But I just read the other day that worldwide, that sport fishing is the #1 outdoor activity among men worldwide. It's fishing. It can be consumptive, you can keep the fish, or non-consumptive, you can catch them and put them back. And it's all up to you. And with a multitude of varieties all over the country, my goodness, fishing can be exciting and a lifetime activity for sure. It's 20 minutes after the hour. This is O'Neill, 404-872-0750, 404-872-0750, or outside the Atlanta calling area, all across the East Coast and cities all across the country, 404-872-0750 in Atlanta, and 800-972-8255. We have we invite you to go to our website, and in the middle of the home page, you will see the O'Neill Outside guest book for you to click on that, leave a question, an observation, a critique, a story, whatever the case might be, and then in the radio program, we will read your contribution. Whatever it is you write, we will announce your name and hometown and read what you have written. And once a week, we will give away an O'Neill Outside People and Places Along the Way book. So, we've got that coming up when we return. 404-872-0750, 800-972-8255. I have the list right here. That's what it looks like when I download it off the computer. It looks like that right there. And if you go to the website, it's easily found. This is O'Neill. At 21 and a half after the hour, we'll be back. Before we get to the guest book, we have a couple of calls we want to get to. Appreciate people taking the time to call. So let's get to those. Here's Andy is calling from Kennesaw, Georgia. What a great name. Good morning, Andy.
Hey, good morning, O'Neill. How are you, bud?
Before we get to your question, let me ask you one. In the city of Kennesaw, Georgia, is it still recommended or by law that you should own a pistol or a gun for your household?
From what I understand, it is still a law, but it's rarely, if at all, enforced.
I'll bet so. I bet it's a safe place to live.
Oh, yeah.
I'll bet so.
Yeah, it is magnificently quiet.
There you are. Okay, as it should be.
Yes, sir. I had a question. I'm not too much of a hunter at all, more of a gun guy just in general, but the hunter safety class, is that a mandated class as far as the same class everywhere you can take it, or is it different in different places?
Yes, and I understand you can take it online, and I recommend it highly.
Okay, because I want to take it. I just
Good idea.
for the heck of it.
Good idea. You should have that under your belt.
One more real quick question. Do you not do the CVA muzzleloader giveaway anymore?
No, we don't do the CVA giveaway anymore. The main reason is they sell so fast and sell so many of them, they really can't keep up my giving one away every week.
Okay, cool. Well, that's all I wanted to do.
Well, let me make a suggestion to you. If you get into hunting and and I recommend muzzleloading because you get to hunt longer and earlier, and you have to be a better hunter to use a muzzleloader.
Right.
But CVA has a new muzzleloader called the Paramount. And this new muzzleloader, which I haven't even seen one yet, that's a muzzleloader that can handle game out to 300 yards.
Wow.
Wow is right.
The Paramount. Okay, I'm gonna have to. I live 2 exits down from my Cabela's, and it's everything I can do to stay out of that parking lot. I tend to get in trouble every time.
That's great. I'll if I can remember to do so, if you'll be listening over the next hour or two, I'll tell the story about how Bass Pro Shop got started, and of course they own Cabela's now. I'll try to remind myself to tell that story. Thanks for calling, Andy.
Yes, sir. Y'all have a good day. We'll holler at you later.
You bet. I'm glad you called. I really do. There you are. Let's talk now to Jeff. He's calling from McDonough. Good morning, Jeff. What do you say?
Good morning, O'Neill. How are you doing?
Lovely.
Good. Hey, you were talking about coastal fishing earlier. And
yes.
I was wondering, have you ever used a seining net?
Just on a couple of occasions, I seined for bait, really, in the waves on the coast. How about you? Have you done that?
I've watched it as a kid on Jekyll Island for many years, and I finally got to do it a couple of years ago, and I really enjoyed it. That was fun because it was sort of like being a kid on Christmas morning. You have no idea what will be in that net.
I'll bet so. Yeah, no kidding. What did you on a typical seining operation? What would you get?
You'd mostly get some shrimp, maybe some flounder.
Oh,
we've even called a baby hammerhead before.
No kidding.
That was it, and that was interesting because it was sort of hard to try to get them out of there without getting bit.
I'll bet so. Yeah, hammerhead is a very aggressive species.
Oh yeah.
Well, isn't that
all right?
Go ahead.
No. Yeah, that was it. I was just wondering if you had ever seined.
No, but you know, I had a interesting observation years ago. I was in New Orleans area. Well, I was off the coast in what they call the Atchafalaya Basin. I was at a marina, and there was a Department of Natural Resources Law Enforcement Division boat there, and they had a big seining net. Well, actually, it was a gill net. You know what that is?
Believe so. It's been a while.
You know, it's a gill net is a kind of a open net, and you put it across a channel or a stream, and it's big enough for the fish to swim into, but most of them can't get out, so it gets hung around their gills. That's why it's called a gill net.
Okay.
And this law enforcement boat had a gill net that they had confiscated around where some of these guys had illegally put this gill net in.
Right.
And it was in an area where it was both fresh and salt water. It was in the brackish water, so you had fresh and saltwater species. And they in that net was a 13-pound largemouth.
Wow.
Wow is right. What a shame. What a shame that fish was gill netted and died. So, yes, seining can be, when I did it in the surf, mostly what we got was a few whiting and a few things like that, but it was fun. What the heck, right?
Exactly. Yeah, we would seine and just maybe just get the shrimp out itself, and we would have a 5-gallon bucket filled up within an hour or so, and we would have a heck of a feast.
Oh yeah,
night.
You don't have to be an angler either. They're just there. Just don't drown, huh?
Exactly.
It's amazing. I guess for the amateur, it would be amazing to demonstrate how much you get or how much is swimming around out there that you can net.
Oh yeah, it's like I said, it's just like being a kid on Christmas morning. You have no idea what you're going to find.
You bet. Good
All
call,
right,
sir, and thanks for listening to the program.
Yes, sir. You take care now.
You bet. Stay in touch more often, if you will. Great
Will do,
call.
sir. Goodbye.
Jeff, thank you. All right, here. Oh, my goodness, we've got some news to handle here. Here's Donna calling from Hall County. Good morning, Donna. It's good to hear your voice.
Morning. I'm the person that hates coyotes, O'Neill. Do you remember?
Oh, I remember.
I was calling to ask, with all of your fishing contacts and wildlife folks, if you've heard anything about the background and the cause about the either 22 or 24 whales that washed up on St. Simon's.
Yes,
yesterday.
they did. What a mystery that is. Isn't that something?
That's why I was calling you.
Well,
to see what you...
I read about it. I understand that most people have a lot of opinions as to how that or why that occurs. I did follow up to notice that the school or the pod, I think it's a pod really, of whales, they did get most of them turned around and headed back out to the ocean. But some of them did die. Quite a number, I think, did they not?
Yeah, from what I read, and some were eaten by sharks, and it's just kind of shocking to me. I wondered if any of your game and fish people have an opinion about, the military has a submarine base at St. Mary's down below there.
Yes.
And I wondered if that sonar gets the whales confused on occasion. I didn't know. I found it fascinating.
That's a possibility. I have not thought about that, but that's one of many possibilities. I will comment that my experience with dolphins, whales, and so on, that especially the small whales that we're talking about here, they are extremely smart.
But also extremely sensitive, correct?
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, I just wondered, if you've ever been down to St. Mary's since they put all that in, it has changed that whole area when they dredged it out for all the submarines and all. So nobody seems to want to talk about it, and I'm very patriotic, and I'm not being critical. I just was fascinated because it was such a sad story and so unusual that it happened on St. Simon's.
Yes, it did, but I think they got them turned around. I don't know. Let me comment here about that St. Mary's submarine base. If my information is correct, and of course I'm not there, I'm just repeating things I read, that on some of those submarines out of St. Mary's, each one of those subs has 24 nuclear missiles on those boats, on those subs.
It's a major base, yes.
Right, okay. And each one of those 24 rockets with nuclear warheads is more powerful, more destructive than the bombs that were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki in 1945.
Wow.
Isn't that something?
Well, we fight to win when we need to do that. So
I wonder about we'll call the intellectual capacity of some of our enemies to the state of, why would you ever fool around with the United States of America?
Well, if you think God's calling you to fight, I guess, like some of these.
Well, yeah, I suppose so. Yeah, Allah is saying you need to pick a fight.
No, I just wondered. I would love for you to, next time you talk to some of your fishermen people and all down there, I'd love to know more information about about these whales and see what they thought, because they have their fingers on the pulse down there more than I do up here in the mountains. But
certainly,
I just thought it was interesting and sad.
It's very interesting, and I had it on my list to talk about it, so I'm glad you called.
Oh, good. All right.
Indeed, I'm glad you called. Okay.
Thank you. Have a good morning.
You bet. I'll see you soon. Welcome back, everyone. Our telephone numbers are 404-872-0750 or 800-972-8255. This is Realtree Radio, presented by CVA Muzzleloaders. It's the fall of the year, and we'll talk deer hunting and a lot of things, but fishing's still on people's mind. So let's talk. And I'll get to the guest book in a moment. But right now, let's talk to Michael. He's calling from Dallas. Good morning, Michael. How are we, sir?
Good morning, Mr. O'Neill. I've recently moved to the Georgia area.
Okay.
And I've took up interest in trout fishing, but getting information on where to start to fish and that kind of stuff has been fairly hard.
Okay.
I've gone to the Georgia DNR website, and I see where they're stocking ponds or streams and lakes, but I'm not sure where to start at going about fishing these streams or ponds.
The easiest place for you to go would be the Chattahoochee River. It is absolutely full of trout, and the Department of Natural Resources keeps it that way. During the week is the best time, and you can follow the directions there at the Georgia DNR. There's many guides that work the Chattahoochee River.
Yeah, I've talked to a few guides, but everything's so expensive. I just wanted to get my feet wet before I jumped in.
Is. Then I would tell you that, let's say you live in Dallas, it'd be quite not too bad, but it might be worthwhile. Gail and I live near Amicalola Falls. Amicalola River is an outstanding trout stream, and when you get your feet wet, so to speak, I'll direct you to the Soquee River. It's expensive, but it is the best mountain trout stream maybe on the east. I think I must have lost Michael. I'm sorry. Yeah, he's gone. Doggone it. All right, let's talk. Before we get to the guest book, let's chat for a moment with Jack. And Jack is calling from Cartersville on an unusual subject. Good morning, Jack. You're on O'Neill Outside.
Yes, good morning, O'Neill. I just wanted to get you a little information here. Well, I was in the Navy. I served on surface vessels, but it's the same for any ship or submarine out there. They might be nuclear capable, but the standard response that you give anyone that asks if they have nuclear weapons is, I can neither confirm nor deny the presence of nuclear weapons on board USS. And it's
good idea.
We're not supposed to tell them what we got. Just showing our hand.
Okay.
But anyway, I love
it's all
show.
Negotiations, right?
Yes, sir. We want to keep.
Well, thank you very, very much.
All right. Well, appreciate.
Oh, let me ask you a question, Jack.
Talk to me,
Jack. Let me ask you a question.
You
live in Cartersville, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Have you ever been to that Western Museum there in Cartersville?
The Booth Museum.
Whatever that, I don't know the name of it, but it's a Western History Museum in Cartersville.
No, you ain't lost me. I'm right here. The Booth Museum, yes.
Oh, okay. I went there. What an attractive, interesting place to visit. That's just marvelous.
Yes, it is. They take grade school, like elementary school field trips there, and they bring the history to youngins.
Oh, yeah, they've got authentic stage coaches.
Yes.
And all type of memorabilia there, and the history, and a Western History Museum. It is, anyone who hasn't been to the Cartersville Museum, the Boot Museum that Jack has just told me about, is a fabulous place. Just fabulous.
we've got the Tellus Science Museum up here also.
Cartersville is a wonderful place.
It's got a lot going on up here.
You betcha,
And
Jack. I'm glad you called, sir, and we'll keep it quiet about the nuclear weapons.
Yeah, we're gonna keep that on the down low.
There you go.
Thank
See you later,
Odell.
pal. There you go, right there. You bet. All right, let's get to our mailbag if we can. Let's see. Let's try one from Brad Tucker in Midland, North Carolina. He says, "Hey O'Neill, I love the show. You're always willing to share tips, and I believe that is important to the future of our outdoor activities. I've always thought the more you know, the more you understand, the more you can enjoy the outdoors, fishing, hunting, camping, hiking, and whatever. It should not be a mystery, and thanks to Brad for saying so." Bill Winans in Kannapolis, North Carolina. He said he hit a deer, but it was too heavy to put in the back of his truck, and he wanted to know if the meat is bruised, is unedible. It still would be edible, what to do if it's clean and kept cool, but there's a point, and it varies by state. I can only comment as to Georgia. Georgia owns the deer. So if you hit a deer, the first call that you make is to, well, I guess 911 or to the sheriff's office if it's during the day, and it's up to the sheriff to give you authorization and permission to take that deer. The sheriff in the county, of course, you can call the Department of Natural Resources. Is the meat good? You bet it is, as long as it's kept cold and never does get heated up. In Shea Arnold in Fillmore, Indiana. Let's see. Wanted to know about Gatlinburg. They took their honeymoon there. Gail and I had our honeymoon in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, 54 years ago, when we revisited that this past June. It's a wonderful, quaint little town, and I think it's important. Shay tells me they trout fished every day. What a great way to start a wedding. Start a honeymoon and start a life together. Bill Sever in Decula, Georgia, he says he loves the recipes. Yes, indeed. You can go to o'neilloutside.com, and all of the Big Green Egg and the Swaggerty's Farm recipes are on the website, and they're very, very special recipes, and it makes grilling and cooking wild game and otherwise much more interesting. Roger Barron from Yuma, Arizona. He won the Southern Grind knife. He received it, and he said it's the best he's ever had, and we appreciate hearing from you on that. Ken Depew from Blountsville, Tennessee. He said he said, O'Neill, you hit a home run when you picked Travis Johnson as your partner on the television show. I love his hunting tactics and tips. I wonder where he learned all that. Well, both his other grandfather and his father are all hunters, too. Ken Drew in DeLand, Florida. He fishes, but he doesn't hunt, but he loves watching the hunting show. And our winner this week, and the win will be an O'Neill Outside book. There it is right there, called People and Places Along the Way, and we'll send a signed copy to Randy Carver. He says, please do a show preparing the hunting season, checking on the stands, cutting brush. Do this long before the season begins. That's why I picked this from Randy. He's from Aiken, South Carolina. Your deer hunt, the preparation for your deer hunting season begins now. Cutting the lane so that you can see. putting in a food plot, getting a soil test. If you want your deer season to be its absolute best, start now. Let's talk about that just for a second. What does a whitetail buck do most of the, other than the rut? What does he do? He eats, sleeps, hangs around with his buddies to maintain the proper dominance, and eats. That's all he does. If you have food plots, then the deer will stay where you hunt. They don't venture out, as a rule, everywhere and leave your property. If they have something to eat and they feel safe, they just, other than the rut, they just kind of stay alive. That's bucks and does. If you give them something to eat, they'll stay, and that's what you need to do now is put in a food plot, and you can do that at the Whitetail Institute. Give them a call, look them up on the internet, and a real live person will answer your questions. Wherever it is that you live, he will tell you what to plant, when to plant, how to plant it, and what to expect from it. They are the #1 food plot seed company in the world. The Whitetail Institute. Be sure and avail yourself of that. Now, what else was I going to talk about? Oh, okay. I promised I would talk about a moment about yesterday's rainstorm. I went to this is sad, really. I had an assignment to go buy something at Walmart. That wasn't the sad part. It was pouring down rain, just raining like mad. I always park way from the front doors, because I don't park close to another vehicle. I don't want someone opening a door and banging the side of my truck. So I park way away from the door. I had an umbrella, big black and white umbrella that I purchased a long, long time ago. I'll get to it. I use the umbrella. I go in the store. What I wanted to buy, they didn't have, so I walked back out, and somebody had stolen my umbrella. I saw the fellow out in the parking lot, and I said, no, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe he'll just pull back up here in his car and bring the umbrella back. Well, he didn't. So I ran through the parking lot in the rain, and I chased that fellow down. I banged on the window. I'm probably glad he didn't have a pistol and shoot me. Pulled up behind him, flashing my lights, pounded on the window, and he rolled the window down about 1 inch and said, I didn't know the umbrella was yours. He was a thief. And I got wet, but that's okay. But what if that had been a mother with a baby, or a elderly lady trying to get to her car, and this criminal chose to be a thief and steal someone's umbrella? I kind of hope I see him again. This is O'Neill. We'll be back. 57 after the hour, you're listening to Real Tree Radio, brought to you by CVA Muzzleloaders, and I'm O'Neill, and who did you expect, okay? First of all, let's go and chat before the hour ends. We'll talk to Bill from Fayetteville, Georgia. Good morning, Bill.
Mr. O'Neill, you struck a nerve with me this morning when you was talking about what the deer do. I was sitting out on my front porch, and actually about a week ago, and I looked across the road. There's 3 bucks coming, two regular color, and then there was a complete white a buck, and they were just rolling down the road and then went into the wood area. And I've got a little farm down in Meriwether County that backs up to QC Ranch, which is 4,000 acres. I've never seen an albino deer before.
I never have.
He was absolutely beautiful. That was down in South Fayette County.
Isn't that something? What a rare occurrence.
I keep looking for him. I mean, I keep looking for him. I've been walking the property, but I don't know if I'll ever see him again. But
isn't that something?
O'Neill, I was banging on the door to get my wife out there, and when he crossed the road, she was able to see him for a second. It was great. Hey, the only other thing I got is hope you and Gail know that how much all of us listeners, y'all are part of family to us, and we appreciate what y'all do. The other thing is, people, if you want to go fishing, there's a lot of people with boats. You don't have to have a boat. We're looking for people to help with the expense. Y'all have a great day, and God bless America.
You bet. Thanks for your call and for your comments. I really do appreciate it. Sometimes it gets, when you get up at 3 o'clock in the morning to do this, sometimes you wonder whether it's effective or not, and I thank you for your comments, sir. There you go. How about that? Well, that's a nice comment to end the first hour of the show. This is O'Neill Outside and Real Tree Radio. We've got another hour of outdoors headed your way. Why don't you stick around? We'll be back in 5 or 6 minutes after the news and a few things to give credit to people, and then O'Neill will be back for another hour.
From Black Powder headquarters and the Bojangles studio at Three Falls Cabin in the North Georgia mountains, it's time for O'Neill Outside. For anything in the outdoors, this is your source. Listen in and call the show with your comments or questions. And now, here's O'Neill.
Good morning, boys and girls, from the Bojangles studio high in the mountains of North Georgia. This is O'Neill Outside, presented by CVA for Real Tree Radio. We've got outdoors to talk about over the next hour, the second hour of the program. It is the #1 live outdoor-based radio talk show in the world. Thank goodness we can take a few hours off and not talk about politics. Fishing, hunting, outdoors, camping, hiking, and spending some time in the outdoors. It's almost 7 after the hour. We have a busy morning coming up. Didn't get to a lot of things in the first hour because we had so many calls, and we invite you to do that. We do have the radio prize package coming up when I return, plus the Medal of Honor tribute, probably the outstanding feature in the program, and your calls, of course, and we have a lot of things to do, and we hope that you'll join us. It's almost 8 after the hour. This program is brought to you by Real Tree Camo, Timbuktu Outdoors, Stripling's General Store, O'Neill's Alaskan Cruise. Visit o'neilloutside.com. Bottom of the homepage, the Alaskan Cruise, summer of 2020, and it's filling up. Don't wait. You need to go on that cruise with us. Snellville Heating and Air, O'Neill's Real Lubes and Oils, Bodyplex, and Works Tools. So we're getting into it really fast. There's a new record fish caught in Georgia. A pod of whales beached themselves on the Georgia coast. I don't know why. I thought they were really smart. Some of them committing suicide, I suppose. But anyway, we have a lot of things to do, and that we invite your participation in the program. I invite also for you to tune in, if you can, to O'Neill Outside Television. This part of the year, we're hunting, usually whitetails, and usually it's Travis Johnson is hosting the show throughout the fall. It's kind of get a 27 or 28 years old's perspective and energy in the show instead of an old guy. So there you are, 404-872-0750, 800-972-8255 for Radio Prize Package when we return. Before we get to the Radio Prize Package, I want to give you a little tease for the radio program. For the WSB Affleck Cancer Center Carathon. It's going to be broadcast on WSB and throughout this coming week. And we're giving away, for contributions, we're giving away books and O'Neill Outside hats and all that sort of thing. But a very, very special, once-in-a-lifetime trip. And I'm going to take you deer hunting to some outstanding property over in East Georgia. So when you're listening, be sure and see if you can track that down. Okay, let's give away the radio prize package. The rules are you have to be 18 years old and not have won a radio prize package before. And the radio prize package looks like this: a Bojangles gift card, stop and get a biscuit and some eggs; Swaggerty's Farm free voucher to use at grocery stores; a Whitetail Institute DVD all about planting food plots; an Angler magazine, a Realtree hat and a window decal; Data Sport Fish and Game Forecaster; 2 cans of Fisher's Choice baits; a Thunder Chicken casting float, very unique, from Mark Noble; a Thorogood Boots hat; an Arctic Ice freezer pack. Once you use those Arctic Ice packs, you won't be buying ice anymore; 2 packets of bug band repellent; and a selection of True Turn lures. And what is the question? Here it is. What do we call the studio from which we broadcast the radio show here in the mountains? 404-872-0750, 800-972-8255. We will not repeat the question. Call those numbers. The first correct answer wins the radio prize package. It's 14 after the hour. What can we get into now? Well, let's see. I want to tell you about a record dolphin fish, a mahi-mahi, a dorado, that was caught off the Georgia coast. A 67-pounder. Oh, my goodness, what a whopper. My largest, caught in Costa Rica, was 48 pounds. They gain, it's interesting, extremely aggressive fish. They grow a pound a month. You catch a 6-pounder, he's 6 months old. You catch a 12-pounder accordingly. How about that? 404-872-0750, 800-972-8255. We should be receiving, we've got a lot of people that are calling in. And, okay, before we get to anything at 15 after the hour, let's talk to Mac. And Mac is calling with the Ram Fishing Report. Good morning, Mac. What do you say?
Good morning, O'Neill. How are you?
Good.
All right. Well, got a pretty good fishing report.
Love to hear it.
I know everybody's saying, man, it's hot. I don't want to get, it's too hot. You need to go fishing.
That's exactly right.
You can always jump in the lake if you're hot, get back out, put your life jacket on, jump in and keep fishing. But
that's right.
Fishing's been good. I think a lot of people kind of get away from it, or the trend is it's so hot they won't bite. They got to eat.
Oh, absolutely.
They just get deeper. And standard summer techniques on Lanier and other area lakes: live bait on a downline. You control jigs or spoons on lead core. Power reeling might be our best technique up here. Now, big spoons and big jigs. But all your summer techniques are looking. The biggest advice I can give people, the hardest part of this time of year, you still got to find them. So you got to move a lot. They're so deep, they're not going to hide from your sonar. So keep looking till you see fish on your down imaging, on your side imaging, whatever it is, and then fish. Trolling's a really good way to find them. If you find them while you're trolling, once you find them and they're nice and dense and all packed up, reeling your trolling stuff to start power reeling and dropping the live baits. The other thing I need to caution everybody about, we have places in the lake, not just this lake, where certain depth zones or areas where now the water's getting hot, your bait may not live. So you need to check your bait regularly, replace them accordingly. You might want to carry a little bit of extra bait because it's tough on them too. So just remember that. Sure. You're fishing, you got fish under, you're not catching them. Maybe your bait's not alive. Reel them up and check him, or you may have to find the depth where they're living best. But really be cognizant of that because they can get you in trouble.
It's a great demonstration, is it not? And I'm sure it's happening for you this time of year almost daily. You can be fishing along, you can see some fish on the depth finder, but when you change baits and put a fresh one down there, you get bites.
It's amazing, and yes, that is very much the case, particularly if you're using blueback herring or maybe some lakes have alewives in them. They're very, very sensitive, and if they're not in good shape, they're not good baits. If they're compromised, the fish won't eat them a lot of times. So keep them, and particularly if you got them under your boat, you're watching them on the sonar, and they're not eating. A lot of times, if you will change baits, what you just said, you put that nice frisky bait down there. You burn a lot of bait doing that, but it pays off. So, and that's why I say carry extra bait. Keep your bait in good shape.
All right. Are you having a busy summer?
we've had a great summer. The lake's fished well, and we've been busy. So yes, been a good year overall. I look back on this year to this point. And Lanier and most of our area lakes have fished very well, and we had a nice mild winter, got off to a good start. So yes, been so far so very good so far.
Okay, let's get to something personal because I want everyone to hear this from you. The last time you and I spoke, you were on the way. Where and why?
I was on my way to Houston, Texas.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a long way to drive.
Yes.
It just kept driving. So I was taking my daughter to grad school, so we picked up all her stuff, loaded up a couple cars, and made a road trip to Houston. Had a good time, and it was a good trip, very good trip.
And she is going there to the university for her doctorate. Is that not correct?
She is at Rice University for her doctorate, studying biochem and some really cool stuff that her dad doesn't understand and probably never will. But he takes her at his word. He's proud of it.
I know you are proud beyond words.
I am. She's worked very hard. Left Georgia with the highest honors. Buzzed through their chemistry program, and it's amazing to me. I don't know where she got it from. I can't take credit for it, but I'm glad she got it.
Yeah. I know both you and Mom, and I know where she got it.
Yeah, Mom. Let's just go ahead and cut the chase.
Glad you called, Mac.
O'Neill, everybody get out on the water, be safe, catch some fish, and have a good time out there. Take some pictures, make some memories.
About this safety, let me comment, and I'll get back to it. We got the radio prize package winner. Every year, almost every year, on Lake Lanier, because it's the busiest Corps of Engineers lake in the country, and it's practically it's a suburban lake of 37,000 acres. There's always boating accidents.
Mm-hmm.
If you're on the water and you can't tell where someone is going, you don't know whether they see you or whatever, throttle back, stop. Right?
That sounds so simple. It sounds facetious.
It just throttle back, stop.
Just back off of it if you don't know.
Yeah, I mean, don't try to guess which way someone else is going while you are in motion.
And on the other side of that, O'Neill, if you've got a boat, if two boats are approaching at a distance and you're not sure, turn your boat in an obvious and deliberate manner so the other boat knows that you see him and you're acknowledging and you're going one way and that's telling him which way to go. And that would, but you're right, throttle back if you don't know. But
you
if
bet.
you turn and give other boats an idea of what your indication is, that will save a lot of headaches.
There you go. And lastly then, too, an absolute rule. Boat fuel, boat gas, and alcohol do not mix.
Never have, never will.
You bet. See you, pal.
Have a great weekend.
You too, pal. I'll see you soon. There we go. All right, let's see. Almost 21 after the hour, we have the radio prize package winner. David and everybody, you guys hold on. This is O'Neill with Realtree Radio, brought to you by CVA. Every Saturday morning throughout the fall, entertaining our outdoor callers, the questions, the statements, and keeping up with the outdoors and encouraging you and your family to spend time in the outdoors, on the water, trout, bass, saltwater, you name it. There's so much to do, and the things you learn will last a lifetime. And I guess I'm an example of that, and it can be for you too. This is O'Neill. We'll be back. Welcome back. You're listening and on Facebook watching O'Neill Outside. And before we get to the callers, we want to tell you that you can watch the televised version of the radio on several video-on-demand networks, both now and in the future. Television is changing. We've got a lot of calls. We want to get to every one of them. First of all, however, let's get this radio prize package given away. What do we call the studio from which we broadcast the radio program? And now let's talk to Bill. He's calling from Dallas. Good morning, Bill.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Lovely. And what do we call this little studio here in the mountains?
That would be the Bojangle Studio.
That's right. Every time I say it, it makes me hungry. So you got quite a prize package headed your way, and part of that prize package is a coupon so that you can go to Bojangles and get some fried chicken and biscuits. How about that?
Man, well, I'm trying to watch my weight, but you know what? I'll get fat. It's fine.
That's okay. You can stand this. I ate at Bojangles last night. It was really good.
Yeah, it sure is.
You bet. All right, give us a couple of weeks to get it to you, and we'll be fine.
All right, thank you, sir.
You bet. See you soon. Glad for your participation in the program. Next, let's speak to, he's been holding on quite a while. Let's speak to David. He's calling from Blairsville, Georgia, high in the Georgia mountains. Good morning, David.
Good morning, O'Neill. How are you doing this morning?
Lovely. You bet.
Hey, I was going to talk to you about, to change the subject of what I had said I was going to say. When I was 13 years old, my dad got laid off from work, and I got to spend an entire summer commercial fishing with my father in the Indian River around the Vero Beach area. And we'd set out pigfish traps and catch small pigfish, and I would have to get out with my dad and help seine while we were waiting on the pigfish to get in the traps to catch more pigfish. And we got all kinds of stuff. I mean, we'd get seahorses, and I mean, you just can't imagine all the stuff. But the one thing I hated the most was walking through there, because I knew I was going to step on a stingray, and I'd have to drag my feet so that I'd bump them and they wouldn't sting me. But that was quite an experience.
It's funny how historically, during poor economic conditions, in other words, when the unemployment rate is high, more people go fishing.
Yeah. And I got to spend that whole summer with my dad every day fishing, which was something I'll never forget. But one thing I was going to tell you about, do you know what a siloom light is?
Pardon me, say what?
A siloom light. It's the chemical light. You break it and you shake it and it lights up.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I came up with an idea, and I actually took those. I bought a bunch of them for like 50 cents a piece, and I put them inside of clear jugs, and we went jug fishing at night for catfish, and I took my 7-year-old granddaughter with me. And I tell you what, you talk about a kid having fun watching those lights and figuring out which one had the fish on it. Now, we had a ball.
Oh, man, what a great adventure, both for her and for you.
Yeah, it was, and I had never done it before, had never heard of it being done before, and I just went and did it, and I tell you what, it's an amazing thing to do. You don't have to hunt for the jugs. You can see them just take off. It's a lot of fun. It really is a blast to get out there and play with that and catch a few catfish and stuff to take home to eat with the kids.
Well, you know that's a great idea. I'm glad you enjoyed it and it worked for you. I do know that a lot of sport fishermen use lights of that nature for swordfish.
Yeah, dropping deep.
Offshore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when they drop deep where there's no light. Yeah, and trolling, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really works good.
Well, what a great adventure that was. And I appreciate hearing about it and you listening to the program.
All right, O'Neill, you have a great day.
You bet. Thanks for calling, Pat. You bet. There we go. Let's see. It's 30 after. We've got time. Let's talk to Hank the Yank and see what he has to say this morning. Good morning.
What are you saying, my man?
Did I lose Hank the Yank already? There he is.
Hello? You got me?
Did
you lose me?
No, I've got you.
O'Neill?
I've got you, I think. Are you
Hello?
there?
Come on.
Hello?
Put me on. What are you doing?
Let's see. Let me
What are you doing?
Let me ring you up again. Do we still have him, Corey?
Hello?
Let me check with my engineer at WSB. Yeah, you're up, pal.
I'm waiting for the pitcher to throw the ball. I'm up. Hello?
Oh.
He's killing me.
Always a baseball analogy. You're killing me, too. Can you hear O'Neill? You're on the radio show, I think.
I hear you perfectly.
Good. I'm glad to hear that.
It sounds like we got a delay.
I can hear you indeed.
I feel like we got a delay for some reason.
Doesn't sound like it to me, so do the best you can.
I'll do the best I can. Well, I'll tell you what, I am fishing, believe it or not. But you know me, this time of year, I don't fish Lanier because, you know, the stripers are deep, and truthfully, while they can be caught, anglers should consider, if they have other options, to leave those fish alone, because you're probably going to kill 75% of those fish that you release. That's what our DNR tells us, our biologists tell us, because of the lack of oxygen. So I'm doing other things. I'm fishing the river this time of year, and I'm actually I did a trip that'll be very near and dear to your heart. I went up with the fellas at Unicoi Outfitters last week, and we went shoal bass fishing. We floated the river for shoal bass. Remember you did that with Peter? You remember you did that with Peter years ago?
Yes, I did, and shoal bass is one of my favorites. That is one more aggressive critter.
It is. It's like a smallmouth. For anybody who hasn't caught a shoal bass, it's just like smallmouth. And we went fishing. Unicoi does float trips up there, up at, right below Helen, through Cornelia. And we caught all our shoal bass on poppers. This time of year, you just throw the banks and you catch shoal bass on poppers. And it's a great 5-6 hour float for anybody who wants to do something a little different. The other thing, I'm going back up again, believe it or not. Now, you've been up to Helen, Georgia, haven't you?
Oh, many times, yes.
Okay, do you know where Nora Mill is? Just before you get into Helen, it's that old mill that makes the grits and all the kind of, it's a real working mill from the 1800s. Well, the Chattahoochee River dams up right at Nora Mill. That's as far as any fish coming out of Lake Lanier can go. And that section right now is absolutely full of striped bass. So we're going striper fishing on that stretch at Nacoochee Bend. We're going to wet wade for stripers tomorrow morning. And you can catch them. And that's just something else that Unicoi Outfitters offers up that way. Really inexpensive. I want to say they charge $60 for 3 hours of fishing private water, and you can wet wade for stripers with a fly. That's something they just started doing this year. So that's another fun trip. There's a lot of really good things that you can do in the summertime besides fishing in our lakes when those stripers are kind of getting strung out from that hot weather. It's just not a healthy for these fish right now to be caught. So we kind of try to do other things. North Georgia has so many other options right now for anglers to do in the river systems. So that's what we've been doing the last couple of weeks. I was out yesterday actually carp fishing the Chattahoochee. So there's just lots of things you can do. But O'Neill, before I let you go, I just want to say one last thing. I want to talk about what you brought up with Mac about those two boats and, on Lake Lanier, especially when we see a lot of accidents occurring. The rules of the road say when two boats approach, both boats are supposed to turn right. This way, they are always going away from one another. And I just wish that our Corps of Engineers, would make all boaters take a Coast Guard auxiliary boating safety course. It would just do wonders. My old state of Connecticut used to make us do that. And it's just whether you're operating a jet ski or a motorized boat, it really would make the most sense. And I hope someone from the Corps of Engineers listens to O'Neill Outside.
They do, and to the extreme, quite frankly, but I don't mind feeling this way. I think you need to have a driver's license to drive a boat.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, that's an interesting approach. I remember when I grew up in New York City, my folks had a small little lean-to lodge up in the Catskill Mountains, and my dad had a little 16-foot John boat with a 9.9 horsepower, and I was probably about 10 or 11 years old, and I wanted to take that boat out and go fishing, and my dad said, "You can take the boat out once you take a Coast Guard auxiliary course and learn the rules of the road." And that was the smartest thing he ever did.
Oh, yes, absolutely. You've been carrying it around ever since.
That's right. That's right.
There's some real nutcases out driving boats.
Yeah, it's a shame.
There's some. Yeah, you bet.
All right, buddy. Well, look, you have a good weekend.
Well, I'm glad you called, my good friend. You too.
All right, pal.
And I'm sorry the connection is poor. We'll
Yeah, well,
speak to you
listen,
later.
The
There
connection
we go.
is poor, but you're,
Yeah.
the connection is poor, but you're not.
Oh, yeah? Okay, thanks, pal. I'll catch you later. All right, there you are, 36 after the hour. This is O'Neill with O'Neill Outside, and we'll be back. Commander Howard Gilmore, U.S. Navy, February 1943. Boldly striking at the enemy in spite of continuous hostile air and anti-submarine patrols, Commander Gilmore sank one Japanese freighter and damaged another by torpedo fire, successfully evading depth charges following each attack. In the darkness of night on February the 7th, an enemy gunboat closed range and prepared to ram the sub. Commander Gilmore maneuvered to avoid the crash and rammed the attacker instead, ripping into her port side at 11 knots and bursting her wide plates. In the terrific fire of the sinking gunboat's heavy machine guns, Commander Gilmore calmly gave the order to clear the bridge and refusing safety for himself, remained on deck while his men preceded him below. Struck down by the gunfire and having done his utmost against the enemy in his final living moments, Commander Gilmore gave his last order to the officer of the deck: take her down. The sub dived, seriously damaged but under control. She was brought to safety to port by her well-trained crew, inspired by the courageous fighting spirit of their dead captain. Commander Howard Gilmore died in battle, February 1943. That is a hero. 42 after the hour. 404-872-0750, 800-972-8255. You're listening to O'Neill Outside every Saturday morning, and this is Real Tree Radio. And I will give you a tip. If you want to be fully informed and continuously reminded of the proper techniques, preparation, stories, and recommendations about the fall deer season, hunting safety, preparation, gun maintenance, and all of those things, be sure and go and visit realtree.com. They have full-time people always reminding the hunter about all those things. It's a real class act. It's owned by and operated by a fellow by the name of Bill Jordan. It's Jordan, but it's Bill Jordan, pronounced that way, in the Chattahoochee River Valley near Columbus, Georgia. Make that a part. Now, back. I have a recommendation too. O'Neill always has lots of recommendations. Next summer, the summer of 2020, we are going on a cruise in Alaska. We're flying to Seattle and taking the Lynn Canal from Seattle up through the intercoastal waterways of Alaska, mountains on both sides. I've been on this cruise before, visiting the glaciers, and it's just marvelous. Marvelous. And you can go. And if you'll visit O'NeillOutside.com, at the bottom of the home page, you will see all the information there. Proceed and make a reservation. You can cancel, but be a part of it now. And that way you'll secure your balcony room. You need, if you can, you need to have a balcony room because the scenery is special. Once in a lifetime trip. I know many of you listening to this program have been on an Alaskan cruise, and most of the telephone calls and email messages that I get at O'Neill Outside, we usually confirm that is the best cruise. Well, in North America, that's the cruise, and I'd like for you to go. Believe me, this is not a profit center for O'Neill. No. But I'd like for you to go on the cruise. I'd like for you to enjoy it. And we'll spend a lot of time together and enjoy it. 45 after the hour. 404-872-0750, 800-972-8255. This is O'Neill with O'Neill Outside. Now, I made some recommendations earlier about about the deer season. I told you all about Realtree.com. Isn't that great? Well, sure it is. Okay. The preparation for deer season begins now. And the number one thing for you to do to improve your deer hunting on the property, the lease, whatever it is for you to give the deer something to eat. And I'm not talking about a pile of corn. I'm talking about a food plot, something that regenerates. Because I made this comment earlier about the activities of a whitetail buck, or a whitetail doe for that matter. But whitetail bucks, other than during the rut, the whitetail buck is well, let's put it this way. All he does is eat and sleep and hang with his other bucks and continually establish the pecking order, if you will. And he's really good at remaining alive. Other than that, if you have a food plot, he will remain there instead of going elsewhere. Give him something to eat. Now, if you haven't done so, when you put in your food plot, do this. Use an attractant to get him started there. A smell, an attractive odor that gets him going to that food plot. Now, what might that be? Well, there's a product called Pay Dirt. You can look it up on the internet. It's called Pay Dirt, and you sprinkle it all around on the new food plot. That will attract him to that food plot. It will attract the does to the food plot. And they are creatures of habit. Again, eat and sleep and not venture very far. There are exceptions to that, but they generally, a white-tailed deer lives in a 90-acre circle, if you will. He doesn't go very far, with rare exceptions, and we've talked about that before. All right, a couple of tips about, let's see, no calls right now. You know what I'd love to get? We're on, the show airs on the Sports Broadcast Network. And one of the stations on the network is WEEI in Boston, which covers Maine, Vermont, Boston, New York, Delaware, Connecticut. It's the number one powerhouse sports radio station in the Northeast. And I'm risking getting embarrassed here. I'd love to get a call from someone off of WEEI Sports Radio in the Northeast. Let's see what the weather is like there now, and whether those fellows there, is it a crop-based or is it a food plot-based deer management, if you will. All right, back to some some fishing tackle recommendations. Bear with me. I've always got plenty of advice. Okay, it's summertime. It's time to go fishing. I would defy you to properly recall the last half hour of last fishing trip. Did you get hung up? Were you in the weeds? Were you in the brush? Were you on some riprap? What I'm pointing out to you is you don't remember what happened the last half hour of your fishing trip regarding your line. And the most important thing that you fish, your most important piece of equipment that you use in fishing is your line. I don't care what kind of reel, bait, hook, no matter what, your line is the most important. So, two recommendations. Each time you go fishing, when you're rigging up in preparation for the trip, cut off 1 rod length of line. 5 feet, 6 feet, 7 feet. Clip it off, retie. Now you've got a fresh terminal tackle and fresh knot. And the second thing is, and I learned this long ago from an outstanding guide who used to be a guide on Lake Lanier, and I fished close to him many times. Sounds easy. It is, and you should keep this in mind. Every time you catch a fish and release it, put it in the live well, whatever the case might be, every time you catch a bass, a striper, maybe even a brim, retie that hook. Retie that hook. Retie that knot. Because the next fish may be the fish of a lifetime. The next fish may be the fish that you've been looking for, that you've been angling for, and you cannot tell visually by looking at that knot. Retie that knot after every single fish. Good idea, huh? What would it take you? 10 seconds? And besides, you probably need practice tying the knots anyway. If you use braid, then that knot is even more important and takes more time and more attention. I am still a mono guy, a mono line fisherman. I noticed the other day that the guy who won one of the last, it was FL Dale tournament, FLW tournament, or a pro bass tournament, or a bass tournament, whatever the case might be, doesn't matter. But I noticed in the news that a fellow had won a bass tournament, a big one, a champion. He was using 55-pound braid line. Now, he's practiced at it. He probably fishes almost every single day. I would never attempt to use 55-pound test line for bass fishing. He can, he does, he's obviously successful at it. If you want to give that a try, then as all of my recommendations in fishing, if you want to learn how to plastic worm fish, you want to learn how to use 55-pound braid, if you, whatever the case might be, dedicate a day to it. You cannot learn how to do something in an hour. Set aside a day for fishing and learning to fish a certain method, a certain way, a certain technique, a different tackle, and so on. That's the way you learn how to fish. And that's why people who win bass tournaments are people who fish every day. Got another story when I come back. This is O'Neill. Well, we're about to wind it up for the 20th of July, but we do have a call I want to especially get to. It's Dave, and he's calling from Boston on WEEI. Good morning, Dave.
Hey, how you doing?
Lovely. I appreciate you calling, sir. I always enjoy understanding the effectiveness of the show and our audience. Good morning.
Same to you. Yeah, no, we do a lot of hunting up here in the Boston area for whitetail. It's probably a lot different than how you guys do it.
Yes, well, give me a brief description.
Well, I do 90% of my hunting with a bow.
Okay.
And we do development hunting, which is normal housing developments with patches of woods in between streets.
Oh.
And we hunt the small little patches of woods that border these developments because the deer around here don't have a lot of big woods. And a lot of the time, the crop is the ornamental plants that people plant at their house.
I see the flowers in landscaping, huh?
Yep, a lot of evergreen bushes and stuff like that. The deer love them. You know, you're going to usually see a browse line.
Oh, my goodness. How interesting. Oh, well, I do appreciate you.
We'll get right in behind the houses, once we get past that, the zone that you can't hunt in with a bow and just wait for the deer. They're usually bedded down, 100 yards behind the house.
Interesting. I'm so glad that you called and that you're listening to the program. It makes me feel good that we're reaching out to WEEI. I understand it's the #1 sports radio station in the country.
Yeah, it's pretty big.
You betcha. Hey, I'm glad you called, Dave.
Thank you.
You bet. Continue
Have
listening
a good day.
And call more often, would you? Hey, this is O'Neill. Art, I'm sorry I can't get to you, pal. And but I'm glad you called. Call earlier next time. This is O'Neill with Real Tree Radio, brought to you by CVA. You guys have a great weekend. This is O'Neill. Take a kid fishing. What do you say?
I once asked a mighty hunter, coming home from the field, how he came to possess such mighty hunting and fishing skill. He said, I'll tell you a secret, son. I learned everything I know from listening to O'Neill Outside on my radio. O'Neill, O'Neill, O'Neill Outside.